Hello and welcome to Kloeker Education Foundation, where we provide quality content for amazing teachers and students. If you're joining us from our previous video on economic utility, welcome back. And if this is your first time, we're glad you're here. This is our Intro to Business series, and this lesson is on economic resources. Let's dive in. We have two objectives in this lesson, that is to A, describe the type of economic resources, and B, explain how limited resources can affect businesses. Now, objective A, describing the different types of economic resources. You might be thinking, so what? Why is this important? Now let's look at the scenario. Mindy and Jessica sold lemonade at their yard sale. To sell lemonade, the girls had to have gathered some must-have items, and they need a variety of resources to be successful. So take a moment and either put this on paper or turn and talk to your neighbor. What resources might they need? Think about the utility of each item that Mindy and Jessica will need to be successful. So what are economic resources? These are items that can be used to produce goods and services, the inputs that enable businesses to operate. Now, using economic resources looks as businesses grow, they require more resources. The resources that businesses use may vary, especially as the size and utility of the company increases. Producers are responsible for choosing and using the best combination of resources for their business. Now, economic resources come in three categories: natural resources, human resources, and capital goods. Now, economic resources are, of course, factors of production, and they enable businesses to produce the goods and services that consumers want. For example, transforming cotton, taking it from the cotton boll, turning it into sheets of cloth, the cloth being sent to a factory to be sewn into pants and shirts, and then distributed and sold at retailers across the nation. Now, natural resources are any resources found in nature and are used to produce goods and services. Examples of these include land, minerals, energy reserves, water, wildlife, vegetation, air, and even weather conditions. All of these are examples of natural resources. Human resources are the people who work physically or mentally to produce the goods and services. Now, many jobs are valuable human resources, such as real estate agents, truck drivers, operations managers, marketing researchers, and entrepreneurs. These are just a few jobs that provide human resources to businesses and organizations. Now, why are human resources so important? Human resources are required in the production of all goods and services. They combine the other resources to produce the goods and services that are then sold to the customer. And capital goods. These are manufactured or constructed items that are used to produce goods and services. So what makes capital goods different? Capital goods are created by people. Human resources use capital goods to transform them from their natural states, which are less satisfactory to the consumers, into better products that satisfy the needs and desires and wants of the consumers. Capital goods help human resources be more productive, such as turning iron ore into steel or turning cotton into sheets of fabric and clothing. Other examples of capital goods include equipment, machinery, tools, supplies, buildings, trucks, roads, and ports. All of these are examples of capital goods, which are used in the development and transportation of products. Now, you may ask, is money considered a capital good? And though money is needed to run a business, it is not considered a capital good. It is instead considered financial capital. And we will talk about that in a later lesson. Capital goods reflect a society's technology. The better the infrastructure, the better the capital goods. Leaders in technology use and have the most up-to-date capital goods. In developing countries use simple hand tools to produce goods and services. Industrialized nations use more sophisticated industrial and digital technology. So now let's tackle our second objective, explaining how limited resources affect business. Now, every resource is limited. Natural resources, human resources, and capital goods are all limited. So why are natural resources limited? It may be supply problems due to an overuse of non-renewable resources such as fossil fuels or minerals, difficult or costly to obtain said natural resources, a lack of technology or infrastructure, or unsuitable weather conditions may limit natural resources. Human resources are limited as some people are unable or unwilling to work, and there may be shortages of people in certain jobs or professions, maybe because of a lack of training, a lack of interest, changing demographics, or geographically they are just unavailable. And capital goods. Capital goods are limited because of a lack of labor, natural resource shortage, technology, and or the money to produce said goods. Now, responses to limited natural resources are to find another source, find alternative resources or a substitute, conserve the resource and change the recipe or ingredients in said product, or pay a higher price for the resource. Responses to limited human resources include offering higher wages, offer training and retraining programs, increasing promotions and retention, finding new sources of human resources, or increasing automation to not rely on human labor. And responses to limited human resources may include offering employee assistance programs, other benefits, flex time, and shared time. To fix the issue of limited capital goods would be to maintain your supply of capital goods, such as rationing, changing inventory procedures, finding alternative capital goods, or modifying technology to affect the shortage. So let's take what we've learned in this lesson and apply it to a situation that we might be familiar with. What natural resources do your school or employers use? What human resources does your school or employer use? What capital goods does your school or employer use? And what has your school or employer done to make up for shortages in economic resources? Now, let's take these ideas, values, and principles and apply them to a situation so we can continue to build strong ethics and character in business through the gray zone. Now, in this scenario, the Van B plant claims that it supports its community and looks after its workers. However, recently, Van B replaced 125 employees with automated machinery. Most of the local residents are outraged that these workers have been replaced. They say that Van B shouldn't have eliminated any of its human resources. So now I ask you, did Van B act unethically? Are the local residents being unrealistic to the needs and wants of the company? Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our lesson. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out on Teachers Pay Teachers, YouTube, Rumble, and the Kloeker Education Foundation website. Our next lesson on private enterprise systems is just a click away. I'll see you there.